Today we're going to talk about how to stop the itch from things like poison ivy, from chigger bites, maybe even eczema. Also how to stop the pain from bee stings and how to stop an itch in a very unusual place. Hey everybody, Chad Cruiser here with Health and Homestead. All around me here is the plantain plant. I'm right next to a small little stream, little creek here, and this is a common place where you'll find it in kind of wet areas, maybe underneath the tree or right on the edge of a forest, disturbed areas. It is indigenous to places like Europe and Asia, but like I said, now you can find it all over the world. And plantain is everywhere. This is something that you can either eat raw or you can eat it in a cooked form. It's really probably not the best tasting wild edible, but it can be a fantastic natural remedy. And I want to show you multiple scientifically backed benefits to this plant. We're going to begin by talking about plantain's impact on burn wounds. Silver sulfadiazine cream is a standard ointment used on second and third degree burns. It is an antimicrobial agent that helps prevent bacteria in the wound. In the International Journal of Clinical Practice, silver sulfadiazine was tested head to head against an ointment with plantain extract on patients with second degree burns. It turned out that the plantain extract was slightly better than the standard treatment for burn healing, 11.73 days for the plantain group versus 13 days in the standard pharmaceutical treatment. Now you may think, well, it's not that much different, but notice this is actually better than the standard pharmaceutical agent. Now I want to talk about plantain's impact on itching in a very unusual place. Oral mucositis is a common side effect of radiation and chemotherapy in cancer patients. It can lead to inflammation and swelling of the mouth and tongue, and this can make it harder for patients to talk and sometimes even eat. Another strange side effect is that it can cause the mouth to itch. This is a variety called blonde plantain. A double-blind, randomized crossover trial was reported in the Journal of Integrated Medicine on Plantago ovata's impact on oral mucositis. And they gave the patients in the experimental group 500 milligrams of Plantago ovata and 30 milliliters of water and 3 drops of vinegar per serving versus a placebo in the other group. Then they would switch, after being on this for a time, they would switch to the other group, and the ones on the placebo would get the Plantago. And the plantain was significantly better than placebo in its impact on oral mucositis. Plantain also enhanced the quality of life of the individuals, according to the study. Now, this is an unusual thing for the average person to have, but for someone who's gone through chemo or radiation, this could be something that could be very beneficial to them. But what about its impact on poison ivy? Plantain leaf has been historically used for dermatitis as a folk remedy. In the New England Journal of Medicine, there was a letter to the editor on the benefit of using crushed plantain leaves from both Plantago major, which is broadleaf plantain, and also Plantago lanceolata, which is the narrow leaf plantain. And I want to show you a simple way to make a salve that you could use to apply it. After that, I'll show you a very simple method that you can even use in the backcountry. So what you can do is you can put in a glass jar a half cup of olive oil, and then you can fill it up with as much of the plantain as you can that will fill up the olive oil. Or if you don't have fresh plantain, you can just use a 1/3 cup of dried plantain that you buy. Then you start a simple makeshift double boiler by putting some water in the bottom of a pan, and then inside of that you put another jar. And then you use a 1/3 ounce of beeswax. You can then grate the beeswax, that'll make it melt faster, and then you put it in the jar in the double boiler. Next, you will strain the oil from the plantain leaves to get the plantain leaves out of the mixture. You can use a spoon to press down to try to get as much of that dark, rich, infused plantain oil out of there. Then you simply wait for the beeswax to be fully melted. Once the beeswax is melted, you take your plantain oil mixture and you mix them together. Finally, you pour it into whatever container you want to keep your salve in, and then if you want it to harden quicker, you can stick it in the fridge. As soon as it hardens, it's ready to be applied anytime you need it, and now you'll have it on hand. Another way is to simply take the plant itself, stick it in your mouth, chew it up, and you can apply it directly onto the skin. Now, if you're in the back country, that's probably all you're gonna have the opportunity to do. Simply chewing it historically is the way to do it. It's gonna break it up. If you don't wanna chew it, I mean, you can, it's edible. If you don't wanna chew it though, you could just pulverize it, break it up as much as possible. But if you're in the back country, the best way to do it is simply chew it and apply it as something like a poultice directly to the skin. Now, I used this just a few weeks ago with my wife. We had chigger bites and we're scratching the itch, and somebody actually made us this. We applied it instantly. Instantly the itching went away. It was absolutely incredible. My wife simultaneously had some poison ivy. She didn't have it wasn't like a massive bit of poison ivy, but she did have some of the dermatitis from poison ivy. She too applied it, and she was told to apply it 3 times a day, and it worked. It was beneficial. It totally helped her out also. And so both of these options can be fantastic. Now, another thing that it may be beneficial for also is for bee stings. So if you've been stung by a bee, applying some of this, once again, you can either chew it up and then just apply it, or you could use something like the salve and put that salve right on the bee sting. And if you're in the backcountry and you don't have something like a salve, I mean, sure, you can make the salve at home so that you have it all winter and it's always on hand. But for the rest of the time, if you're out in nature, you're out in the backcountry, or you just have it growing around your house, you can go out there, you can chew that stuff and just apply it right to whatever area has that dermatitis, has that skin irritation, and you may find some of these similar benefits. Now, another natural remedy that you probably heard for poison ivy is something called jewelweed. Jewelweed was historically mashed and placed upon the poison ivy rash, and research in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology tested multiple substances like jewelweed smashed, jewelweed extract, soaps and jewelweed together, and normal soap on poison ivy rash. And it turned out that jewelweed was effective at helping the dermatitis from poison ivy. Jewelweed extracts were not effective, and soap with jewelweed works, but no more than soap without jewelweed. Now, a couple things that we can learn from this is, number one of the best things that you can do if you got poison ivy is wash that off and use soap, especially dish soap, which is very beneficial at getting off those oils from your skin from the poison ivy. So soap is one of the most beneficial things that you can do. If you're in the backcountry, once again, you may not have good soap with you, and so finding something like the plantain or the jewelweed is a beneficial way to go. Just to give a little side note, since we're on the subject of plantain, you may not know that psyllium is the outermost layer of the seed in Plantago ovata. We've already talked about Plantago ovata, and it can help with constipation by bulking up the stool. Research reported in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition reveals that giving people 5.1 grams of psyllium a day significantly lowered total and LDL cholesterol. But another way to lower the cholesterol and keep yourself regular is to consume higher levels of unrefined fruits and vegetables. So I'm going to have some links down below if you want to find some seeds for plantain, for different kinds of plantain. If you want to find some links for some salve from this, I'll have those down below. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notifications. God bless and have a fantastic day.